Hi, I'm Jeremy Crosby.
And I'm Nick Boucher. We're the hosts for the program that's all about your city, Talking Fitchburg.
Every day, we pull together the news, events, and information you need to stay on top of what's happening in the city of Fitchburg.
Find Talking Fitchburg on cable TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and our live stream on the web. Plus, you can view all our headlines and stories on Facebook, YouTube, and our video on demand service. This is your city.
Keep up with Talking Fitchburg and the issues that affect you and your neighbors.
Want to know what's happening in your city? Get Notify Me messages from the City of Fitchburg. Visit fitchburgwi.gov on your computer or mobile device and select the big Notify Me button on the left. Enter your email and/or phone number, whichever is best for you to get notifications. Scroll down the list and select all the topics you're interested in to receive email or text messages about. You'll be notified every time one of your topics is updated. Sign up for Notify Me, one more way to keep up with your Fitchburg government.
I call to order the meeting of the Finance Committee on December 10th, 2024 at 6:31 p.m. Myself and Alder Jetzer are in chambers. Alder Wheeler is absent with excuse. Next item of business is the approval of minutes. I'll need a motion on the draft minutes of the November 26th, 2024 Finance meeting.
I move to approve.
Motion by Alder Wheeler.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Alder Jetzer, thank you. Any comments, questions?
None.
Great. All in favor of the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Moving on to item 3, public appearances for non-agenda items. There is nobody in chambers or online, so we can move on to item 4, Finance Director Report. Misty?
Thank you. So the big news, of course, is tax collection, which I have reported on the last couple of meetings, but tax bills were sent to the printer last week, Friday. They were getting mailed tomorrow, so I expect they'll hit mailboxes probably Thursday, Friday, Saturday, depending on how the mail service goes. Access Dane, which is where all of the tax bills will be available, as well as all of the receipts. That should be updated with tax bills on Friday. The one big benefit of our new software, which is this will be our second year using it after being a pilot last year, is that receipts are uploaded within 24 hours. So when we get a payment and we receipt it, 24 hours later, that receipt will be available on Access Dane. So hopeful that people will appreciate that service and be able to get those receipts quickly. Working with FACTv to do some TV spots to kind of talk about, how the tax bill is calculated and what to look for and all that type of a thing. And then just one stat, so there were 8,906 tax bills included in this year's. This is a drop from last year because personal property is no longer a separate tax bill. That was fully repealed for this year. That's all I have.
Wonderful. Seeing no questions, we can move on to the review of bills. Item 5A, detailed review of all checks for $10,000 and above, November 16th through 30th, 2024, totaling $882,425.90. Any comments or questions?
None.
Moving on to item 5B, detailed review of all checks issued, checks 127819 to 127882, from November 16th to the 30th, 2024, totaling $979,014.28. Comments or questions?
Nope.
Moving on to item 5C, detailed review of all ACH payments for $10,000 and above from November 1st to the 30th, 2024, totaling $627,518.22. Anything?
Nope.
Moving on to 5D, detailed review of all ACH payments from November 1st to the 30th, 2024, totaling $633,429.40. Anything?
No questions.
We can move on to the action items. Item 6A, I'll need a motion on Resolution R19824, Internet Services for the Hub Facility.
I will move approval of Resolution R19824.
Motion to approve by Alder Jetzer. And turn this over to
IT
Nick.
Director Nick Joseph is here
Great.
to talk about that.
Nick, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. I don't necessarily have any true details other than to be here to answer questions should there be any, but the proposal is to help do our part to facilitate the vision for the hub. And this also operationally includes providing I guess, the infrastructure that we need to provide security as well as, well, door access and video security as well, both of them along those lines, but then for future growth as well, providing internet connectivity for other city services and to connect us back to the existing, let's say, infrastructure that we have so that we can, in essence, be able to provide that building the ability for staff to connect back to city resources.
Wonderful. Bill?
Is this going to provide public Wi-Fi as well within the building?
So there will be, we will have the ability to provide public Wi-Fi similar to how we provide it here, meaning here being at the City Hall campus primarily. So there will be a guest network, the same guest network set up at that location. However, there will be most likely some other considerations, being that it's a building that's kind of, and it's going to be a little bit further out than our main campus. And so we may put maybe some time scheduling and things of that nature and other items in place. But other than that, the main answer is yes.
Okay.
My question is related to timing. Is there a reason that this is coming up now versus when the building will be more complete?
Yes, because there's going to be some infrastructure from the provider. We did receive 4 quotes on this bid, and every one of them required some infrastructure building to be put in place. And so we are looking to have those contracts signed in order so those, I guess, the provider can coordinate with the contractor so that they're not having to rip up the sidewalk after we've already done our work and things of that nature.
Makes sense.
So are they going to be sharing the same easement as MG&E?
I can't say per se. I apologize. I don't know in detail. I know they'll be coming in the easement going, I guess, coming from posts down to down to the building. Whether or not that's the same easement as MG&E, I do not know.
Seeing no more questions, I think we can take it to a vote. All in favor of Resolution R 19824, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Next item is, thanks, Nick. Next item will be Resolution R 19924, Hub Facility Door Access System.
I move approval of R 19924.
Motion to approve by Alder Jetzer. Is this Nick again? You have the floor.
Okay, thank you. So for this resolution, this is our door access system. In this particular bid, this is something that we are sole sourcing because we are simply expanding the current systems that we are using for door access at all city buildings. And this will be awarded to the same vendor that we are using at present.
So this approval is just for the hub, but we will soon be seeing approvals for the more broad across the city, or we already have these systems?
We already have these systems, and we're simply expanding it to the hub.
Got it. Anything from you, Bill?
Yeah, so is there going to be a system for the hub where people who rent it get a fob, or how is that going to work if somebody wants to rent the facility? I suppose
it will be correct. It is exactly as we do presently. I think the community center, similarly, if someone wanted to rent over the weekend, they are assigned a fob. I think Scott can probably speak to this. I think there's they have a fee for the cost of the fob in case they don't return it, but otherwise they have a fob to gain access, and once they're done, they have to return that fob. But it's the same door access system, and that procedure-wise, Scott can speak to the procedure.
It would be identical to the community center, Nick. You're right on.
I would like to add that no process has yet been established or specific use for the building at this point in time, and we do anticipate that once the building opens in likely the third quarter of 2025, we'll take a period of time to truly assess how best to utilize that space.
Great.
Then I guess maybe looking further ahead, when the new police facility is built, will it be appropriate for this vendor to do that building as well, or is there extra security, extra requirements for something like a public safety building?
So it is a broader question. At face value, the answer would be yes. However, we can talk offline. However, by that time, we may be having separate discussions due to simply evaluating our system and whether or not it needs to be changed or updated. But the short answer would be yes if we remain on the same course that we are.
Okay.
Great. All right, we'll take it to a vote. All in favor of Resolution R19924, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thanks, Nick. Moving on to Resolution R120924. No, I'm sorry, R20924, amending the 2024 water, sewer, and stormwater fund budgets, repairs, chemicals, postage, others.
I move approval of Resolution R20924.
Motion to approve by Alder Jetzer. Turn it over to Tim.
Thank you. The change to unidirectional flushing has caused some additional repairs to mains and services this year than more in the past. Additional chemicals were also needed for the lift station to combat a grease problem that we saw. And then also repair parts for the booster station, chemical injector replacement parts, backup batteries for wells 5, 7, 8, and 10 were higher than anticipated. And then also excess postage was sent to USPS for the referendum mailings, and the utility purchased the unused postage from the city for future utility mailings. So there were other line items within the utility budgets that are projected to be slightly overspent based on current activity. So the interest on investments to revenue accounts in each of the utilities has a surplus due to continued high interest rates earned on cash balances within each fund. So we're looking to amend the water, sewer, and stormwater utility fund budgets as shown on the attached staff memo.
Wonderful. It's great to see that the interest rates, the interest covered the cost. Is that true? Yeah. Anything from you, Bill?
Nope.
Great. All in favor of Resolution R20924, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Next item is going to be 6E. I'll need a motion on Resolution R21224. Nope.
Missed one.
6D. Item 6D, Resolution R21024, amending the 2024 debt and capital projects fund budgets, unused budgeted interest and principal payment on special assessments, and excess interest revenue to reduce future debt issuance.
I move approval of Resolution R21024.
Motion to approve by Alder Wheeler.
Again.
I am having a day. Motion to approve by Alder, the Alders to my right.
The one here.
Yes. Misty, are you going to cover this one?
Yes, please. So this is an annual exercise that we go through for two reasons. One is we need to retain our debt service fund as a bona fide debt service fund, which means we can only have a certain amount of funds within that fund that's not put to principal and interest payments. And two, the purpose is to reduce our future debt issuances, which will then reduce how much we have to pay in debt issuance costs and interest expense by using other funds to kind of supplement the money we would otherwise borrow. So there are three buckets of funds included in this budget amendment. The first is there were 3 special assessments that were deferred and paid, which we didn't anticipate. So that $750,000 we'd like to apply to a future debt issuance to reduce the amount that we'll borrow in the future. The second bucket is $1.6 million. This is what we borrowed or what we budgeted to pay for a principal and interest payment with our 2024 debt that we issued at the beginning of the year. The principal payment was not required, and the interest payment was fully or mostly covered by premium instead, the portion that was there, and then the interest payment was also not as high as we budgeted for. So that money is available to be repurposed. And then the last bucket is interest revenue, kind of like we were talking about. So looking at the debt service fund for 22, 23, and 24, we've been collecting more in interest revenue than what we had budgeted for. So I'd like to put that money to work as well to reduce future debt issuance. The specific project that I'd like to apply these to would be the police facility, because that's the big project that we are currently undertaking. So I'd like to put all of that funds towards that project. We are not changing the amount that we can spend on the police facility. We're just swapping money that I would have otherwise borrowed for the facility will now be instead funded with this cash.
Great. And so the net change, or the net, it's 2.7 million that we can put towards the police station now instead of other things?
Instead of borrowing. Yeah.
Okay.
So again, the budget for the facility is the exact same. It's just how we're paying for it that will change.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
That's really
Saves money for the city overall.
Any questions, Bill?
Misty, could you say just a few words on how special assessments work and why we're able to say, hey, this money was specifically to pay for this thing, but we're going to use it to pay for that thing instead?
Yeah, so the project that these funded was actually borrowed in 2019 for the uptown roads, and the levy has been paying those since 2019, even because those special assessments were deferred. So we're ultimately reimbursing the levy money that was paid for those projects with this special assessment, and then that levy money can be repurposed.
Great. Seeing no more questions, we can vote. All in favor of resolution R21024, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Next, I'll need a motion on R21224, acceptance of Fitchburg Tower D bid.
I'll move approval of resolution R21224.
Motion to approve by Alder Jetzer. And who's going to take this? Tim?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. This is the agenda item that we're looking to revise a couple of the whereas clauses. At the Board of Public Works meeting on December 2nd, it was noted that bid item number 2 in the bid for McGuire actually inadvertently listed the bid item at $80,000, and it was a cash allowance bid item that should have been for $8,000. So therefore, we're looking to award the contract to McGuire in the total amount of $4,016,000, not $4,088,000. And then that $72,000 would be used for contingency, so that the contingency would increase from 5% to about 6.8%. And then the total amount, including contingency, would remain at $4,292,400. And this is for acceptance of the Fitchburg Tower D bid. Back in 2018, the Water System Master Plan recommended the installation of a new water tower in order to maintain adequate water storage capacity. The Public Works Department, we prepared construction plans and specs and obtained competitive bids. The project was opened back on November 13th, 2022, and 2 bids were received publicly with McGuire Iron as the low bid. And then as part of this resolution, we're looking to amend the 2024 water utility budget to transfer $400,000 from the Tower F land purchase and looking to transfer that to the construction of the Tower D in the amount of $400,000.
And then if I may add just a couple of pieces quick. So staff would recommend that we amend the resolution as Tim talked about. I'd also like direction to staff to revise the pre-approval to be consistent with what we're talking about, and then also change the contract to show that lower dollar amount.
Great. Can we start with the motion to amend?
Yes, I move that we amend the resolution to reflect the fact that $72,000 will be moved from the contract, the winning contract amount, to contingency.
Is that sufficient?
And those other two items? Willing to direct staff as such too?
Yes, and that we advise staff to revise the pre-approval
And contract.
and contract.
All right. Let's take a vote on that amendment, since it's pretty straightforward. All in favor of amending as laid out by Alder Jetzer, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. That is amended. Any other questions or discussion? All right. We can take it to a vote. All in favor of Resolution R 21224, say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Thanks, Tim. Next item is R 21424, to approve a contract with Dane County to accept 2025 Neighborhood Navigator funding.
I'll move approval of Resolution R 21424.
Motion to approve by Alder Jetzer. And I think our plan director is going to...
Yeah, I can introduce this. This is our annual contract with Dane County to fund our Neighborhood Navigator program. These funds support 2 neighborhood navigators who work in Fitchburg's early childhood zone. And it's a pretty straightforward contract, exactly what was done last year, and happy to answer any questions.
Glad to hear the program continues to be successful. It's a great idea, and it's great that we get the funding from Dane County to move forward with it every year.
Yep.
Anything from you, Bill?
Nope.
Wonderful. We can take it to a vote. All in favor of Resolution R 21424, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Next is item R 21624, approving replacement of CIP data center switches. Bill?
Oh, yes. I'll move approval of Resolution R 21624.
Wonderful. Motion to approve by Alder Jetzer. And I'll throw it over to Nick.
Yes, I am here. So this is the replacement of our CIP data center switches that are coming of age, many of which are coming to their primarily end of support, where the vendor is, in essence, they've passed their selling point and they're no longer going to be supporting them, which means we can't keep them up to date in relation primarily to patching and security updates. We will also leverage any items that have usable life to move them down into other locations and continue to exhaust their lifespan. But this proposal is to make the replacements at the data center, get those items updated with new equipment, and that should give us another good 7 years out of them, and as well keep us up to date. Do we have any questions?
Question.
I was just going to ask what the expected lifespan of the new ones is going to be, and you just said it's about 7 years.
About 7 years, correct.
I did notice there was some verbiage in the packet that said the warranty was 5 years unless Cisco discontinues the product, and then I forget how it's shorter than that, but we don't foresee them discontinuing these models in the next 5 years or more, right?
No, I do not. I mean, that is the capability. That typically happens, and I guess it's kind of a disclaimer we put in depending on which models that we purchase. So if we purchase a model that was already 7 or 6.5 years old, then you're kind of running yourself into those situations. But the models that we are proposing for this will give us the 7-year lifespan at a minimum.
All right. I think we can go ahead and take it to a vote. All in favor of Resolution R 21624, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Next item. Thanks, Nick. Next item is item R 21824, preliminary assessment resolution for Lacey Road water main, sanitary sewer, and road improvements.
I move approval of Resolution R21824.
Motion to approve by Alder Jetzer. And Tim?
Thank you. Municipal water service, sanitary sewer service, and turn lane improvements were installed for future development in the O'Brien Flats plat south of Lacey Road as part of the Lacey Road reconstruction project. This preliminary assessment resolution authorizes staff to prepare the preliminary assessment report and to proceed with the special assessment process as defined in our local ordinance for these improvements.
And can you remind me what the steps after this first, because this is the very first step in the process. What are the following steps, Tim?
So the landowners signed a waiver of assessment hearing, so a public hearing won't be held. So we'll move immediately to the preliminary assessment report and then complete a final report based on the costs.
Great. Questions? All in favor of Resolution R21824, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Next is item R22224, authorizing and approving a budget amendment to establish a community history display celebrating the history, development, and diversity of the city of Fitchburg.
I move approval of Resolution R22224.
Motion to approve by Alder Jetzer. Chad or Misty?
Yeah, I'll cover
Okay.
this one. So staff is seeking authorization to begin work on a history display. That display would be located, if approved, immediately adjacent to the entry as you come into City Hall near the city clerk's reception area. This history display would be utilized to serve as an accessible public resource for residents, visitors, and others to learn about our past, reflect on our present, and consider our future. And we'd like to seek, if approved, input from the Historical Society, agricultural and business leaders, community members, city staff, and others to ensure that the history display accurately represents the diverse voices and experiences that have shaped our community. And the funding for this would come from the TID closure plan.
Wonderful. And I know it's where that, for people that have been in City Hall, it's where the wall of mayor's photographs used to be, which has been moved to the back wall on the path to the community center. And now this is going to be, that wall is now going to be for.
Correct. Yes, that's the
this,
wall we would like to utilize.
Assuming it's passed. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Questions?
Well, just a comment, I feel like we ought to have a permanent funding source for public art displays within the city.
Wonderful. That sounds lovely. I love that artwork we have at the Key Farms Park.
Yes.
That makes me so happy every time I see it.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing no more questions, all in favor of Resolution R22224, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Moving on to Resolution R22424, authorizing replacements of air handler controls.
I move approval of Resolution R22424.
Motion to approve by Alder Jetzer. Tim?
Thank you. The air handler controls currently need to be operated manually several times per day based on outside temperatures to maintain inside temperature and to prevent the coils from freezing and or damage to the air handling units. Delaying the necessary replacement could result in further damage to the public facility due to flooding and or result in loss of heating, cooling in the entire City Hall building. The notice and bidding requirements for public works contracts are not mandatory for the repair and reconstruction of public facilities when damage or threatened damage thereto creates an emergency in which the public health or welfare of the city is endangered, as determined by resolution of the Board of Public Works. Board of Public Works and Fitchburg Common Council that they declare this purchase a public emergency due to the threatened damage. Looking for authorization from council to authorize Harker Heating and Cooling to complete the necessary repairs and replacements as detailed in the pre-approval form and authorize an amount not to exceed $29,823.
Thanks, Tim. Was this a long time coming, or did this sort of come up in sort of an unexpected way? Obviously, it's emergent in terms of the urgency of it, but is this something that we maybe saw coming, or?
This is something that did come up unexpectedly. They are the original air handler units, but recently our building maintenance supervisor has been having to manually operate them. So the freezing of the coils and flooding doesn't occur throughout the night and day.
Wow.
He's doing that. So
That's
hence the reason for the emergency.
Is this something that's going to be able to get repaired quickly? Is this something we could see in the next couple of weeks, or is this going to be a longer process?
I believe I spoke to Kevin. He's our building and maintenance supervisor, and the parts I believe might be a week to 2 weeks out, and then Harker can get that on their schedule once they receive all the parts. So we're hoping within the month.
Great. Any questions from you, Bill?
Nope.
Wonderful. All in favor of resolution R 22424, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thanks so much, Tim. Our next item of business is announcements. Our next finance meeting is January 14th, 2025. We take our second December meeting off of the week. Any other announcements? Happy holidays. Thanks all for so much great work this year. Cannot believe that we're not going to see you again until 2025. So thanks again for everything. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We are adjourned at 7:01 p.m. Thank you.